she's trailing off the back. She doesn't need to really push too hard as Lena Meyer comes through for the win. And she's going to be followed home by Stella Ruto. So it's the first of two heats in the steeplechase. A very, very busy heat indeed it is. We're looking at 17 women in this heat overall. Lena Meyer, silver medalist 2 years ago in front of a delighted home crowd in Munich. As we scan very quickly across, and here's the defending champion, Luisa Geiger. Diminutive figure, but somebody who I think can actually be called the greatest ever female athlete from her country. The Albanians really do celebrate her. She's appeared even on the Albanian version of Dancing with the Stars as well. Looking across, yes, we've got Milanog, Lena Milanog, daughter of the famous Austrian distance runner Dieter Milanog. So first 8 through, no non-automatic qualifiers. No need to worry about the topic that Tim and I have been talking about in the last few minutes. Keep an eye on as well on Ruto of Romania, Stella Ruto. Formerly a Kenyan athlete, but has been running for Romania since 2021. So as we were saying, this is just pure racing. No fast laps required. Geisa Felicitas Krauser is in there as well, the European leader. So this is a very good heat, but there's going to be a few places up for grabs with 8 women going through. Look at this, look on paper and say, well, there's 4 or 5 obvious names that will go through, but who else would you pick from the rest?
Well, I'll tell you what, Phil, this is likely to be slow, I suspect. I mean, it's sweltering hot here. It's 31 degrees in Rome right now. It's 5 past 12, 5 past 1, the sun is almost directly overhead. There's not a lot of shadow going on from these athletes, and there's no shade for them to run in. That makes it doubly tough. So I suspect the first 3 or 4 laps will be on the slow side.
Stella Ruto running away from this. I'm not sure this is necessarily wise. She's on sub-9 minute pace at the moment, perhaps just a little bit outside it, as we were talking about. Absolutely sweltering conditions. Some of the more obvious favourites like Geiger and Krauser and Meyer taking a bit more steadily behind her, letting Ruto just make all the running. And that's probably quite wise. They've all got strong finishes. They can probably certainly outlast some of the other main candidates that we'd be expecting to see up there. And it's, well, Meyer and Krauser shoulder to shoulder at the moment, but they're about 30 metres in arrears of Ruto.
I mean, Phil, 3:05 for that first kilometre. Her lifetime best is 9:25. She's on 9:15 pace. So, yeah, I'm not going to call it suicidal, but as you said, it's extravagant.
Extravagant and perhaps a little unwise, let's say. Anyway, maybe she knows her capabilities a bit better than we do.
She's got time to stop and have a dip in that cold water, just cool down.
Oh, if only. But it's Krauser and Meyer behind her, the 2 Germans leading the way in 2nd and 3rd place at the moment, doing well. It's Luisa Geiger, twice a World Championship finalist, starting to pull in that gap on Ruto. That was no surprise, I think, after that 3:05 opening kilometre. As Tim was saying, set a personal best of 9:25 at the Chuzhou Diamond League meeting back in April, and it's also Meyer up there as well. So they're getting back quite quickly on level terms with the Romanian. Gone through 2,000 metres, 6:20.7. So there's a much slower second kilometre, a 3:15 second kilometre. And Meyer, well, Maya's got a lot of experience. She knows exactly what she's doing. A medalist from 2 years ago. Has a best of 9:15, so despite these hot conditions, she's doing everything right at the moment, and so too is Krauser just behind her. I have to say, though, it's not helping the fact that both Krauser and Maya have got 2 different German kits on. Come on, guys, wear the same apparel.
That is unusual, especially in this day and age where, you know, there is so much uniform requirement from the athletes. The sponsors want to see athletes in the same kit. But, you know, you've got the choice of a bodysuit or separates, Phil. You're not the bodysuit type, are you?
Not really, no. I much prefer the separates generally.
Figure hugging on you would just kind of not work. Well, I don't think it would work on me, mind you, but just saying.
I was just waiting for you to actually be a bit self-deprecating at this point, but we will get back to the race and pay some attention to this, as it is Maya who takes the lead, as Ruto looking as though she's starting to tire now, with just over a lap to go. The cooling dip going through the water jump. Krauser, 2:16, 2:18 European champion, looking very, very comfortable indeed. Geiger now just starting to come through on the inside. Geiger has got a quick finish. Geiger at the moment back in about 7th place, but those women, and Geiger has counted, those 8 women are away, and it's going to be subject to those women finishing in that order, the ones that go through to the final.
Well, so Stella Ruto's early pace, Phil, quite inexplicable. 3:05 her first kilometre, and then 3:15 her second kilometre. I mean, that's a massive sway, slowing. So 6:20 it was at 2K.
Yeah, so Ruto's still not going to be far from a personal best. I mean, so at the bell they were 8:34, and now they're all just piling up behind them. So it's Maya, Ruto, Krauser, Krolik, who we really haven't mentioned, Soderholm, the Swede, the good Spaniard, Sanchez Escribano, European Championship finalist 2 years ago in Munich. She's got a personal best of 9:20, so she would certainly be looking at getting through there. And Luisa Geiger just doing everything right, just doing all the counting, although she's starting to, as I said, just starting to do everything right. She's trailing off the back. She doesn't need to really push too hard as Lena Meyer comes through for the win, and she's going to be followed home by Stella Ruto. You don't need to sprint, Stella, really. You got it sorted. But we've seen this in the past. I think that may be a bit of a throwback to her Kenyan heritage, because we always used to see Kenyans running for the victory at the end, didn't we?
Phil, that is quick. 9:11 in these conditions in 31-degree heat. That is fabulous steeplechasing. You know, Ruto
9:27.
winning it there.
9:27.
Oh, why did I see 9:11 come up on the screen? Excuse me.
That was with 200 metres to go.
So
that was just over a 16-second last 200 metres, though, which is quick for a steeplechase.
quite quick.
But it's the heat haze.
Yeah, look, you can see the effects it's had on a lot of these athletes. Very, very tough indeed. Soderholm suffering.
So it is Stella Ruto. In fact, the time, I can tell you, has been adjusted to 9:30 exactly. Lena Meyer ran a very tactically astute race in these conditions. 9:30.63. Two-time European champion Geza Felicitas Krauser, 9:31.52. As we just watched the closing stage, the mid stages of the race. We've got a couple of laps to go at this point. So Ruto then, let's say it again, extravagant finishing sprint. Stella Ruto, Romania, 9:30 exactly. Lea Meyer, I think I was calling her Lena for some of that race, 9:30.63. Geza Felicitas Krauser, 9:31.
I'll tell you what, all credit to Soderholm. She was out on the track. She gave 101%, the Swede, and sixth place, personal best, significant personal best, and a place in the final. Brilliant.
So let's have a look then at the second heat of the women's 3,000-metre steeplechase. And in this case, it's the top 8 going through to the final. So We've already seen a couple of German contenders, Lea Meyer and Gesa Felicitas Krause. This is a younger teammate, Olivia Gurt, the reigning European under-23 champion, winning that title in Espoo in Finland last year. Personal best 9:20.08. Ilona Mononen, she won the European under-20 title. Alice Finot of France hasn't competed yet this year in the steeplechase, as you can see, but 9:06.15. It really is a world-class time. Could be set for another race around that 9:30 mark. This is Lizzie Bird, so having seen Louisa Geiger, who won the title in Munich, Lizzie Bird was the bronze medalist. Another strong Romanian, Mihaela Blaga there. But Stella Ruto has been in great form recently, following that time in the Suzhou Diamond League in China, 9:25.31. Krause, the European leader this year, with 9:16. Best athlete on the European this year in this particular heat, though, is Alicia Konicek of Poland, 9:22.52. She's actually joined in this by her sister Aneta, and there are 4 seconds between them on personal best. Alicia with 9:21, Aneta 9:25, who's 3 years her junior. Possibly unhelpful that the bib just says A Konicek when their first names both begin with A. But in any case, looks like Blaga, who's gone out strongly earlier on. In fact, it's the Swedish vest of Lilimo. So, 7.5 laps of the track for these athletes, and ideally looking for something like 3:10 per kilometre. Lilimo gone out very strongly here in hot weather. Interesting call from her. Emilia Lilimo with a season's best this year of 3:39. So I guess she knows that she's just trying to make a break to be in the top 8 by whatever method possible. And at least is going to push on and try and make this a faster race. Tuğba Güvenç behind her of Turkey, just a tiny slip off that water jump, the World University Games winner in 2017. And then Finot of France in a strong position in her first steeplechase of the year. Adva Cohen of Israel in the middle of that pack recently broke her own 2,000-metre chase record. I'm sure the athletes would be glad if they had the opportunity to have 1K less in this race, given the hot conditions, going over 30 degrees as we get towards the hottest part of the day. And now, really, when you're running on the inside lanes of the track, the sun beaming all the way round it, athletes barely shaded at all.
Well, after that 9:30.00 first heat, of course, no non-automatic qualifiers in this, but that was a stunning heat. And a shout out to the revered statistician Mirko Jelava, who's pinged us messages telling us that that was the fastest ever heat at a European Championships, and Lea Meyers was the second fastest heat. Previous one was back in 2022 with Louisa Geiger, 9:30.93. Geiger, well, she got through and looked as though she was struggling a bit, but did get through in 8th place to her 4th consecutive final in that previous heat, as we're now looking as they're coming up to the 1 kilometre mark. Let's keep an eye on the clock. It was Stella Ruto who did that very, very extravagant 3:05, and this is not that far away from it, is it? I mean, when looking here at Lilimo, 3:08.11 with 5 laps, 2 kilometres to go. Well, again, you have to wonder how wise that is. I mean, surely she should be keeping something for the final if she gets through to the final. Behind her, Finot, as you say, great credentials, but hasn't raced for a long time, and the compatriot, Renoir, Konicek as well up there. And it is, at the moment, it's Lilimo really making the pace.
It's interesting because it's the few times that we've said that it's one of the best performances in the history of qualification for the European Championship. That's about as exciting as you can make qualification be, but I wonder whether there are any factors contributing to that. I mean, it could be just generally great track, good conditions, certainly better conditions for sprinting as well, or just athletes wanting to make the most of the opportunity.
Well, 3 laps to go in the steeplechase, and it's still Amelia Lillamo leading the way at the moment. She's forging away around this track, and she's well on course to perhaps shave a couple of seconds off her personal best. A 9:33 personal best, which dates from last year in Stockholm. Swedish record 9:23, so almost exactly 10 seconds faster by Charlotte Fauberg going back a few years. 2014, in fact, a decade. But just look at that. Lillamo absolutely making sure of qualification if she can keep up this pace. She's got 1,000 meters, 6:17. So it's in fact now 3 seconds quicker than the first heat. Just to remind you, though, there are no fastest non-automatic qualifiers. I'm just wondering why. I'd love to find out after this race why she's gone out so fast. What sort of statement she's hoping to make. I'd love to find that out, and I'll probably be asking a Swedish colleague or two during the lunchtime break, because it will have some relevance to the final. So coming up to 2 laps to go now. Lillamo, Robles, Fino, Renault, Lizzie Bird in a very good qualifying position as well. Konachek, Olivia Girth, the former European under-18 champion up there. Ada Cohen, of course, the Israeli record holder. So those are the women who are contesting the qualifying box at the moment.
Yeah, well, Lillamo between the 1K and 2K point actually added to her gap at the front by 4 seconds. But you can see that Carolina Robles of Spain has broken away. I mean, to try and answer your question, I think that she would have wanted to run a decent pace, certainly for a season's best pace, and would have expected the other athletes just to be closer to her. Ultimately, Robles has now broken away from Fino, it is, who's leading that chasing group. A little bit surprised that Fino hasn't pushed on, given the credentials we know she has, even if she's a bit rusty. But you can see there signs that Lillamo looking a little bit tired now, and she may have to hold on inside the closing stage of this race. Robles, yes, closing, but equally she's having to do a lot of hard work out there on her own. But yeah, as ever, somewhat telltale signs over these high hurdles, just beginning to tire in the latter stage of this race. Fino still thereabouts in 3rd place. The under-20 European champion Mononen up to 4th now, having a really solid race, even though we haven't really mentioned her at this point. 8:14 at the bell for Lillamo. Robles getting closer all the time, but that group behind not really pushing on. Having a look to see how many are in that, there are 6 in that, so a relatively clear top 8 at this point, and that is how many athletes will advance through to the final. And Lillamo, you can see her shoulders are up high, she's breathing heavier, but maybe looking at the big screen, it looks like it's closing up. We can't quite see the rest of the pack on the screen, but Robles is there. She's going to come into the lead, and Lillamo just has to not panic at this point, because there's less than 200 meters of this heat to go now. Konachek's there, Fino is as well, Mononen too, and Lizzie Bird, I think, as well. But Lillamo can't quite call it at this stage, but she just needs to hang on. One more barrier, and there's a faller there. That is it Alice? No, it's Renoir, her teammate. As the bib becomes clearer, is she no longer submerged in the water. Goodness me, what drama towards the end of this heat. Eventually, looks like the French best of Fino is going to come through. 9:26 on the clock. Lillamo, eventually you'd have to say she is rewarded, even as though she would have used that amount of energy to make it through. She looks exhausted out there.
Well, that was a really intriguing finish to that race, wasn't it, with Pinot coming through to take the win. You had to feel for her, Renaud, her compatriot. We saw her falling at the water jump. In fact, I was watching the race down the backstraight. She actually fell at the previous hurdle as well, got herself up quickly, And that is the quickest ever heat. That surpasses what we saw just about 15 minutes ago, Stella Ruto. 9:29.29 goes into the record books. So we're looking forward perhaps to seeing a really quick final as well, regardless of the heat conditions. Blaga of Romania just bringing up the rear, but it was a phenomenally exciting, thrilling last 400 meters with Fino taking the win. Lilamo drifting back to 5th place, but gets a personal best, and that was what she was out for. She saved a few tenths off her personal best. As we look at the highlights during the early stages of the race, Pino up there, Renaud up there at this early stage. Yeah, it's a nice side-on shot. Some good hurdling technique there as well. I'm not a steeplechase specialist, but certainly the women are exhibiting very good clearance of the barriers there. One or two people struggling in the water jump. I think that was the Pole, Konachek, who was having difficulty there. These are some of the back markers coming through in the middle stage of the race. Lang deciding it's all too much. But at the front end, that was Renaud. As I say, she'd also fallen at the previous barrier as well. Just completely drained of energy over the course of that last lap when things started hotting up.
Fino only leading in the final stage of the race ahead of the first of the Konachek sisters in second. Mollinen third behind, top 8 advancing there through to the final. This combined result, then you can see, bringing in Ruto's heat winning time, 9:30 exactly. Ruto having a real stellar season.